Well, welcome to another Inside Lansing, where today's guest is Dan Podgorski, Administrator of Lansing. Dan, thanks for being here today.
Hey, Neil, thanks for having me on.
And we haven't seen you in a while, so why don't we talk about some new stuff coming up? I think first and foremost, they had a great time with Fox Pointe this year. That was a big part of the village this year. And we're actually looking forward to some new things there. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're trying to run Fox Pointe as a premier destination. So much like a Major League Baseball or a professional sports franchise does when their in-season ends, they're already looking at making capital improvements and changes to get ready for the next season. And we sort of find ourselves in that position now with Fox Pointe. I don't know that it will really ever be done. Mm-hmm. You're always tweaking and adjusting and improving. So one of the things that we would like to improve upon is the ability to serve food, our concession area. So what we're looking to do for the 2020 season, we'd like to have a more dedicated food concession area. The concession building that's out there is probably the only one of the four buildings that was constructed and designed in a way that doesn't really fit the way we're using it.
Okay.
The crowds that we had last year demand that we have more serving windows. So the building that everybody was being served from last year is going to be expanded upon. We're going to build out some more windows so that our beverage lines can expand from 2 to 4. So you'll have more abilities to get served beverages. And then we'd like to have a separate food, like a dedicated food concession area. And it's going to be more of an outdoorsy look. We're trying to avoid the typical concession stand feel where it's a one-size-fits-all building and you feel like you're just going there for a hot dog and a popcorn.
Less utilitarian, more kind of comfort like.
Yep. Yeah, we want people to come to Fox Pointe and feel like we've over-delivered. We know Lansing people, whether they live here now or used to, we know they're going to come, but we're a big enough venue and we're attracting crowds that go beyond Lansing. Our motto has been, we know we've got one chance to make a good impression on people that come visit the venue for the first time. So we really do want them to feel like their expectations were exceeded. And food is one of those areas, it's important what you get. So it'll be in a completely separate room from what's inside the four walls of the concession stand now.
An addition in a sense.
Yeah, and it's an addition, but it'll look like it was meant to be there all along. So we hope, people are going to notice it. But if you were to come back at the end of the year, or if you were out there for the first time, you'd feel like it was designed that way from the get-go.
And people are probably pretty excited. So could you tell us maybe when we might expect to see, ground being laid, and then maybe when a finish date might be?
Well, we're taping this show here in the middle of March, and the board has already authorized our architectural company to go out for bids. So we're hoping that in April and May is when all this construction would happen, and it would be ready for the start of the Fox Pointe season, which I believe will be, I think it's going to be Wednesday, June 3rd.
Which is a little later than normal, but
yeah,
that's good.
A little bit later last year. I think we started the Wednesday after Memorial Day. We certainly ran into some bad weather last year, so we're pushing it back a week, starting, I think Wednesday, that June 3rd is the first date. So we're hopeful it'll be ready for June 3rd. If not, you might see a couple weeks of the same offerings last year where maybe we have a grill on the side, but we're hoping June 3rd it'll be ready by then.
Well, we're looking forward to it, and we're always out there covering it, so we'll definitely be covering some of that. And I know that's one of the fun aspects of your job is to be a part of something so big and so out there in the crowds, people can see it and everything. But one of the things like that, obviously, as a job, there's some of the nitty gritty you got to get into. And one of those things is planning and zoning.
Right.
And recently there was a planning and zoning training board meeting, I should say. And maybe you could talk a little bit about what that training was supposed to do to help out with that aspect.
Sure. It helps a little bit to explain what the Planning and Zoning Board is all about and what they do. So this is it's a volunteer commission. They're a recommending board that deals with development, a lot of construction or reconstruction, redevelopment of areas. So they're a recommending board. They recommend decisions to the village board. And they deal with things such as rezoning. If a piece of property needs to be rezoned from manufacturing to commercial, or commercial to manufacturing. They deal with subdivisions. If you're going to be building something brand new and you need to subdivide property, they deal with subdivisions and all the legal descriptions and terminology. They deal with site plans for new construction or significant redevelopment and construction. They deal with special uses. I guess I'll use a tattoo parlor as an example. We do allow tattoo parlors as a special use in a manufacturing district only. So somebody could open up a tattoo parlor, but they would have to get a special use because it's the type of business that's unusual. It could have adverse effects on a neighborhood. We actually have probably an even better example is we have a couple of churches that are proposing to move into existing buildings in Lansing. Churches can only be located in a residential district, but they do and can have an effect on neighborhoods. So on Sundays, if you have a large church, the traffic that exits onto those residential streets could adversely affect the neighborhood. So churches need a special use to operate in a residential district. So that's where you deal with things like parking,
Right.
ingress, egress. And so the Planning and Zoning Board hears those petitions and they try to sort through some of those issues of ingress, egress, landscape, water detention, and then they make recommendations to the village board.
And this
So
is all just kind of to help quality of life in the village, correct?
quality of life and development, big issues. And again, they serve mostly as volunteers. They get paid a very small stipend for attending meetings.
So people want to be there. They want to actually be there to help out, and that's good.
Oh yeah. This is planning, zoning, and most communities have a planning or a zoning board, and sometimes they deal with both. So let's get back to the training. The question that you originally asked, because they deal with such big issues, and because they're volunteers, we need to provide training so that they, from time to time, planning and zoning board members change. So you get
Right.
new volunteers. They need to understand what's all involved in a special use or a variance. A variance could be for if you're going to construct a pool in your backyard. We have codes that say the pool has to be a certain amount of feet from your lot line or from an overhead electric line. If they have a hardship and they ask for a variance, those are the types of things the Planning and Zoning Board deals with. So they need to understand the difference between what's a hardship and what's a convenience.
Sure.
And we want them to consider variances mostly for hardships, not for convenience. And so again, it's very technical, and it just
But it's necessary.
It's technical, it's necessary, and that's why it demands that they get some training.
And talking about planning and zoning, talking about businesses maybe a little bit. An old business in town is actually moving to a familiar location. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what that business is and where they're moving to.
Sure. I know you're referencing Tacos and Burritos, Rancho Grande, Mexican restaurant. They have actually two locations in Lansing. They're located on Ridge Road in about the 3500 block. They also have a location at 171st and Torrance. And that's the location that's going to be moving. They're going to move about 8 blocks south. They're going to come habitate the old Golden Crown restaurant at, I think it's 179.
Everybody knows that place.
Everybody knows the Golden
Yes,
Crown.
yes.
So it's a big move. It's going to look like a brand new place. So we're really excited. Retaining your existing development is just as important, if not more important, than attracting new. When you have someone that's already in your town, you've already gotten half the battle's already won. They already believe in your town. They're already experiencing some success here. So if you can get them to expand, it's like hitting a home run.
Now, talking more about maybe streets a little bit, we have a Wentworth is going to be having a lot of renovation done on it recently. I'm sure that some people are going to be concerned about how is this going to affect our, way through town and everything. So maybe you could go through a little bit of the process of what's going to happen there and when to expect that.
Sure. So what we have planned is it's a reconstruction or resurfacing of Wentworth Avenue, starting at Ridge Road, going north to just south of the I-80 there on Wentworth. So we obtained federal surface transportation grant dollars a couple of years ago. The village made an application through the South Suburban Mayors and Managers Association. This was something we did shortly after taking office back in 2017. We applied to get in their program to obtain STP grant dollars for the resurfacing of Wentworth Avenue. We were awarded that grant. Sometimes you have to wait a little bit because the state actually coordinates the letting and the construction of these projects.
Right.
It's federal dollars.
And they have to be spent for that.
yeah.
That's the whole thing. People think you get grant money, you can just spend it anywhere, but they have
Right.
to be spent for the thing that they say they do.
Yeah. So it's an 80-20 split. So federal dollars are going to cover 80%. It's going to be just short of an $800,000 project. So probably $650,000 or so will be covered by federal dollars. Lansing will get the balance, about $150,000. Wentworth Avenue will match up with Wentworth as it's constructed south of Ridge Road. If you think of Wentworth south of Ridge Road, it's a 3-lane road, right? You got one lane in each
Right.
direction, and you have that center turn lane, much like how Ridge Road is between Burnham and Torrance. It's due to go out on a state letting in June, so the IDOT is coordinating the letting and the awarding of the bid. Lansing won't have much to do with it. The state's engineers will oversee the job, make sure it's being done right. Our engineers will also coordinate and make sure our interests are being met. So hopefully, with a June letting, I would expect it would be a late summer, early fall construction if it happens this year in 2020, which we're keeping our fingers crossed for.
Well, we'll keep people updated on that, and we'll look forward to that as well. I know I'd be excited too if I only had to pay 20% of a big purchase myself, so I think that's pretty great for Lansing.
Yeah, obtaining grant dollars is a matter of knowing where to go and continuing to ask.
So usually I like to end the show a little bit more talking about you, Dan, to find out just, how things are going in the position. How are you as Dan Podgorski dealing with the pitch position? What do you love about coming back here day to day and love about the position that maybe people might not know?
Well, serving as the village administrator, it's a wonderful opportunity. This is a great town. A lot of great people work here and live here. So it's a real privilege for me to serve as the administrator. Of course, it's a challenging job. Your job as the administrator is to oversee all the departments and to dissect and assemble all the information that comes through your desk and then bring projects to the village board for approval, such as grants or construction projects or economic development projects like Rancho Grande, like the resurfacing of Wentworth Avenue, like we discussed. So it's my job to sift through all the information that's out there, make sure we collect the information that the elected officials are going to want to see, that they're going to want to contemplate and vote on, and then present it in a manner that is easy for them to understand and makes it something that everybody wants to be on board with. As the administrator, it's important that we certainly have our ideas and ways that we want to run the village, but it's also about encouraging our department heads and their employees to run their departments. Talk about the police and fire department. These are folks that have made a career. Career law enforcement officers, career firefighters, same thing for public works and building. So, me personally, I try to encourage our departments and their management teams to bring ideas to us. I don't believe that the administration should be the centerpiece of all the good ideas that come out. The ideas should be getting pushed towards us from the departments, and it's our job to recognize those as, hey, that's a good idea. Now it's my job to go budget the money we need for it, and then to convince the board that, hey, this is something we should do.
Well, I'm sure we could sit here all day and talk for a long time, and we'll save what we can for next time. But
Sounds good.
Dan, as usual, I'd just like to thank you for being on the show.
It's a pleasure. Love coming here and talking to you guys. I mean, the staff here at LNN, and most people don't know this, you guys have been at it for a long time. A lot of continuity, and when we talk about people who have made a career out of something and are really good at it, you guys are in that same boat. You guys have been running this. our cable network, I guess, as we used to call it.
Yeah.
I know you guys have expanded yourselves, and you push out these shows on different platforms as technology changes. We have to adapt, and you guys have done a great job of that. So it's always great to come on and appreciate it.
And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Inside Lansing.